Hey everybody, it's Mr. Crone again with our lesson for today. This week we are starting a new unit on space, so hopefully you have your packet. You've been able to read about the planets and the moon, and then this video is supposed to help you with any questions you might have. So today's lesson is going to be about the inner planets, so let's get started. You're going to go to Nearpod, either on your app or in your browser. You're going to type in the code. It is KDALH. Again, KDALH. You'll hit join. Type in your name, your homeroom. Alright, so the inner planets. Space lesson 1. Our essential question, or what we're trying to answer by the end of this lesson: what are the unique features of the inner planets in our solar system? So unique just means like special or different than the other planets. Features is another way to say characteristics. So what special characteristics do all the inner planets share? The key points: inner planets are the 4 planets closest to the sun, so focus on that. Inner planets are terrestrial, that means they're made out of rocks and soil, focus on that. Inner planets are inside the asteroid belt. Inside inner planets, makes sense. Starting us off with our engage. How would you define planet? Is the sun a planet? How about the moon? So looking at this picture, or what do you know about planets, how would you define planet? So this is what I came up with. A planet is an object in space that orbits around a sun. The sun is not a planet. If I said orbits around the sun, well, the sun doesn't orbit around itself. So I'm going to say because it does not orbit a sun. Again, then the moon, let's think. Well, the moon, it does orbit, but it doesn't orbit the sun. It orbits the Earth. So the moon is not a planet because it does not orbit the sun. So according to our definition, it has to be orbiting around the sun. The sun doesn't orbit around the sun. The moon doesn't. They can't be planets. I'll hit submit. This is what I would say is a planet. So planets are objects that orbit a star. Remember, the sun's just one of billions and billions of stars in the galaxy. It has enough mass to be round. So planets orbit stars. They have to be round. Is not a satellite. So that's like a moon of another object. So the moon goes around another object, so it can't be a planet. And then this is the last one, has a clean orbit. No rocks or dust in its way. So when planets are going around the stars, there's nothing in its way for it to run into. Makes sense. All right, so we're going to do a little quiz or see what you got. So can you put the planets in order? So you spent a lot of time memorizing, or hopefully getting close to memorizing the order of the planets. So you're going to try your best. Have a growth mindset. Remember, this is just to see what you can do. So you're going to put the planets in order. I'll move me over here. We've got the sun. What planet is closest to the sun? Thinking back to our anchor chart, we know it's one of those M planets. Oh yeah, that's right, Mercury. Thinking back, what's after Mercury? It's one of the V planets. Oh yeah, Venus. Hopefully you would say, oh yeah, Earth. The other M planet, Mars. What's after Mars? Starts with a J. Oh yeah, Jupiter. Saturn. Uranus, Neptune. And then I put Pluto on here. I also said in parentheses it's a dwarf planet. Remember we talked about Pluto. It's got an irregular orbit, and it's very small compared to the other planets. So it fits our criteria, but it's also a little bit different than the rest of the planets. So we call it a dwarf planet. So it's still a planet, but it's just a dwarf planet. All right, so we're going to explore. On the next 4 slides, you will explore 3D models of the 4 inner planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. The inner planets have similarities that make them different from the other planets in our solar system. So try to figure out what makes these planets similar. So you got to think like a scientist. Make observations, try to come to some sort of conclusion. What makes these 4 planets different than any other planets? So let's go. Our first planet is Mercury. You can see that Mercury is round. I can also see on Mercury that the surface looks kind of like there's craters and maybe mountain ranges. I see lots of mountains over here. It looks kind of dusty, maybe like a desert. So it's got some land features. Interesting. Or it rotates. I encourage you to play around with it. Next is Venus. This one is very yellow. It's got some red spots on it. I see maybe a little mountain. Here it looks maybe like some more mountains, some lines and valleys. Maybe a volcano, I don't know. But again, I see land features. I see the colors of like dust or soil. Okay, play around with this more. All right, next is our Earth. We love our Earth. We love our Earth. It is our planet. Maybe you've heard that song. It's got some cuss words in it, but it's still pretty good. This is Earth. You can see some clouds, some land where our continents are. Water. That's interesting. No other planet has water yet. You can see land features like mountains, maybe some deserts, some forests. I see some lakes. I notice a peninsula, maybe an isthmus. We've talked about that. There's Australia. And notice our moon is also orbiting around the Earth. So Earth is the first planet that has its own moon, an own satellite. Again, though, Earth is round. It's got land features. It looks about the same size as the last 2 planets. If you go back, it's about this big. Go back. This one's a little bit bigger. Maybe about the same size or a little bit smaller. So they're all similar size. They all got land features. But Earth is special because it's got water. And the last one, this one's Mars. Ooh, this one's very clear. You can see some land features. I see, it looks like a mountain. This looks like a huge valley or scrape. Here it almost looks like maybe ice or snow at the pole. Ooh, more ice or snow up at the other pole. Maybe like a big desert. Maybe a mountain or crater. So land features about the same size. Maybe some frozen water. Interesting. So you can play around with that some more. Keep on looking, like thinking like a scientist. What do they have in common? So what characteristics do you think the inner planets have in common? So I noticed that they all had some sort of craters. They were all similar in size. I also noted they had land features. So if they have land features, what do they have to be made out of? Oh yeah, land. So made of land. So when we say land, I know you're thinking about dirt, rocks, maybe some metals, minerals. You can think of more. You might have noticed that they are earthy colored. That means like reds, browns, the colors of the earth. You might have noticed something that I didn't notice. You're welcome to put them up here. So what did we observe? So on the next page, you're going to watch a video about the 4 inner planets. Make sure you pay attention to the size of the inner planets and what they're made out of. So after the video, you should be able to tell me something about their size and what they're made out of. Here we go. Make sure my volume's nice and loud. Sorry, I've been doing too many TikToks.
Hi guys, welcome back to the fort. Today, Squeaks and I thought we'd do a little sightseeing using our telescope. We're going to tour our solar system. The solar system is made up of the sun, the earth, and 7 other planets, plus lots of dust, big rocks, gas, and other stuff. All of that stuff together is in orbit around the sun, traveling around it over and over, and the solar system is huge. It's so huge that only one spacecraft so far has ever flown from the Earth all the way to the edge of the solar system. It's called Voyager 1. It's
So
a probe
Voyager
about
1
the size of a small car, but doesn't have
has gone to
any
the edge of our
people.
solar system.
It has flown from Earth through the solar system, taking pictures of lots of the planets as it went, and it took over 35 years to reach the edge.
That's
It's
far.
so big that today we're just going to cover half of it. And keep in mind, it took Voyager 1 all that time to fly from Earth, and Earth isn't even at the middle of our solar system. The sun is. So let's start there, right at the center of the action. The sun is a star, and like most stars, it's a huge ball of super hot gas that gives off light and heat. Without the sun, Earth would be a dark, frozen world with no life. But Earth isn't the closest planet to the sun. That would be Mercury. Not only is Mercury the closest planet to the sun, it's also the smallest. It's less than half the size of the Earth. Mercury doesn't have a lot of gases around it like Earth does. Without these gases to hold and heat, Mercury has the biggest change
Earth
in
has an
temperature
atmosphere,
of any of
Mercury
the planets.
doesn't.
It can go from a super chilly 170 degrees below zero at night to a very warm 425 degrees Celsius during the day.
That's hot.
People couldn't survive on Mercury, and I don't think robotic rats could either. And things get even more extreme on Venus, the next closest planet to the sun. Venus is the brightest planet in our solar system. If you know where to look, you can sometimes spot it from Earth, especially just after the sun sets at night, or just before when it rises in the morning. We've sent probes to Venus to take pictures too. They show us.
So Venus, real quick, is so bright that it is visible from Earth. So if you look up in the sky and see some really bright star, you might be looking at Venus. It depends on the season, of course, and where the Earth is in its orbit around the sun.
That the planet is rocky and covered with thick clouds, but doesn't have any life on it because Venus is extremely hot. In fact, even though it's not the closest to the sun, Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system.
What'd she say? Oh yeah, Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system. So even though Mercury is closer, Venus is hotter. I wonder why.
With temperatures reaching as high as 460 degrees Celsius. Whew! Let's cool off and head to the next planet. Hey, this place looks familiar. Welcome back to Earth. Earth is about 93 million miles from the sun, and it takes 365 days, our year, for the Earth to orbit the sun. And Earth is unlike any other planet in our solar system for at least 2 reasons. Number 1, it's the only planet that we know for sure has liquid water on its surface. And number 2, it's the only planet that we know has life on it.
Living
no other
things.
planets in the solar system have plants or animals or any living things on them. Earth, you rock. Now let's move on to our last stop for today. It's time for a mission to Mars. Mars's nickname is the Red Planet. That's because Mars has a lot of minerals on its surface that give it a unique reddish color. Mars is sort of similar to the planet that we live on. The length of a day on Mars is almost the same as a day on Earth. It's just about 40 minutes longer. And Mars even has some ice on it, frozen at its North Pole. But as far as we know, there's no liquid water anywhere on Mars because it's so cold. Mars also has mountains and canyons like Earth. In fact, it's home to the solar system's biggest volcano.
So the biggest volcano in the whole solar system, says all the planets that orbit around our star, the sun, the biggest mountain is on Mars. It's called Olympus Mons. We saw it in our exploration.
No. Scientists have named it Olympus Mons, and it's nearly 3 times larger than Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth.
That's
Clearly,
huge.
the solar system is an amazing place, full of different worlds with all kinds of extreme environments. And we've only covered 4 planets so far. And those 4 planets all have one thing in common. They're all solid worlds with hard, rocky surfaces that, if you ever went there, you could stand on.
So all the surfaces, they're all made of the same thing. They're rocky, they're hard, you can stand on them. So they might have different rocks and minerals on them, but they're all made out of rocks and minerals. That's something they have in common.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are what we call rocky planets. But next time,
I want to go back real quick so you can see something. Hopefully, move me. Alright, so look at the size of the planets. What do you notice? So yeah, I noticed also that Mercury is the smallest. And I know that Earth and Venus are about the same size. But I've also can see that they are relatively close to the same size. They're not the exact same size, but they're all similar sizes. Just like everybody in 5th grade is not the same size, but we're, for the most part, all similar sizes. Some of us are taller, some of us are shorter, but we're pretty much all the same size. So we could say that with our rocky planets as well.
But next time, we're going to tour planets with no surface at all, the gas giants. Until next time, thanks for exploring
That's
with us.
true, we
And
are.
remember, if you have a question for SciShow Kids, let us know by leaving a comment or emailing us at kids@thescishow.com. Thanks, guys.
So you are going to underline or put a star next to the characteristics of the inner planet. So we've got rocky, terrestrial, gaseous, smaller, larger, composed mostly of rocks and metals, have many moons orbiting them, colder, warmer, have enough atmosphere to have weather, farther from the sun, closer to the sun. So I'm going to take my highlighter, and I'm going to choose green, and I'm going to highlight things that are above the inner planet. So we just called them the rocky planets. So I could guess that the inner planets are rocky and terrestrial. We said that. Are they made out of gas? We know gas is really not very dense, so you can't step on it. We could step on all the planets, so they're not gaseous. Smaller. They are smaller, about the same size, but they're smaller than all the other planets. So we could say they're smaller. So if they're smaller, they can't be larger. Composed mostly of rocks and metals. That means they're made of rocks and metals. Well, yeah, we already said that, so we can highlight that. Have many moons orbiting them. I only noticed one planet with a moon orbiting it. That was Earth. The other ones didn't. So I don't think that they have many moons. Colder? No. Remember, we said the hottest planet is an inner planet. So warmer? Yeah, that would make sense. Have enough atmosphere to have weather? Well, we know at least Earth does. So we can put maybe a question mark. Because I didn't see any weather on Mars or Venus or, Mars or Mercury. But there could be. Farther from the sun, closer to the sun. Well, obviously, they're the closest planets to the sun. That's why they're the inner planets. So hopefully you underlined or starred or highlighted those 5 characteristics. You're going to play a quick game of Name That Inner Planet. Try your best and have a growth mindset. Don't give up. We can do hard things. This planet is about the same size as Earth. Which planet is about the same size as Earth? Well, we know it wasn't Pluto because that's a trash answer. It's not even a real planet anymore. It's a dwarf planet. Mars, Venus, or Mercury? I remember that Mercury was the smallest planet, so it was pretty small compared to Earth. And I remember Mars was a little bit smaller too, so it has to be Venus. Venus is about the same size. This is the smallest of the inner planets. Well, we just saw that. It's the one closest to the sun, Mercury. This inner planet has the largest atmosphere, making it the hottest planet. So remember we said it wasn't the closest planet that was the hottest, it was the one next to it. Yeah, Venus. Remember Venus is so bright we can see it in the night sky, and the reason it's so warm is because it's got a really thick atmosphere. It's like wearing a thick coat all the time. So that coat traps in the heat and it can't escape, so it just gets really hot, gets musty. So Venus has a thick atmosphere that traps in all the heat, and that's what causes it to be the hottest planet. This planet has the perfect atmosphere, which keeps it the right temperature to sustain life. So what planet can have life on it? This isn't a trick question. Of course, it's our lovely home, Earth. We love the Earth. It is our planet. Earth has an atmosphere that lets enough heat out that it doesn't get too warm, but it keeps enough heat in that it doesn't get too cold, meaning we can have plants, we can have animals, we can have humans, we can live on this planet and have liquid water because of our perfect temperature. This planet contains the largest mountain in the solar system. Which planet was that? Oh yeah, Mars, with Olympus Mons. It's twice the size of Mount Everest. Let's see how I did. What? Oh, well, I'll fix it, but I must have put the wrong question for number 1. My bad. So let's dig a little bit deeper. One of the characteristics of the inner planets is that they do not have many moons or rings orbiting them. Why do you think this is? So the inner planets don't have tons of moons or rings orbiting them. Why? Maybe they used to and something happened like an explosion. That might make sense. Maybe there just wasn't any moons nearby when they were formed. Maybe. Maybe the sun's so hot that it just burns up all the moons. I don't know. Let's see. We're going to watch this video, and that's going to hopefully help us answer the question, why don't the inner planets have rings like Saturn or more moons around them?
My name is Eric Loberg with the Taylor Planetarium at the Museum of the Rockies, and I was going to explain why some planets have more moons than others do. Some of it is just a feature of where the planets are located at and how they formed. Most planets formed when all the little chunks of rock in the solar system started to come together and form larger and larger planets. If these planets were close to asteroid belts, you may get more moons because those asteroids will be captured by the planets. So planets like Mars, who has 2 moons, or Pluto, who has 5, both of those are near asteroid belts, and they have a few more moons than some of the smaller ones.
So we talked about the asteroid belt. Remember, it's that belt that kind of separates the inner and the outer planets, and it's got these tons of rocks just orbiting around the sun. So one of the reasons could be that since there's no asteroids around Mercury, Venus, or Earth, they don't really have that many moons. Whereas Jupiter is close to the asteroid belt, and so is Mars. So that could be a reason.
Small planets like Mercury or even Venus and Earth were closer to the sun. The sun absorbed most of that material that was left over. and so we don't have very many moons. The Earth's moon was probably a Mars-sized object that came from outside our solar system. Some of these objects came in an early bombardment period and smashed into the Earth, and that's what formed our moon. Why some planets have many moons is basically because of their size. The planets in our solar system that have more moons are the large planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. They're so big that they can collect a lot of moons. If comets swing by them, they can sometimes absorb comets. They can grab asteroids. And there was a lot more material as it starts to condense into that big planet. There was more left behind that swirled around the planet, and it left more moons. We can look at the number of moons in the solar system. Mercury has 0 moons. It's close to the sun. Venus has 0 moons, also close to the sun. Earth has our 1, which was probably a large impact that came from farther out. And Mars has 2 moons. All of these planets were very close to that great big sun, and the sun absorbed most of those objects. Mars probably has 2 because there's a big asteroid belt in between Mars and Jupiter. Jupiter has 50. The largest planet, Saturn, second largest planet, has 53. Uranus, also very large, 27. Neptune, farthest away, has 14. And then there's another kind of rocky asteroid belt called the Kuiper Belt. Pluto out there has 5, just because it was near those little rocky leftovers, so it could grab.
So I hope you remember from when we talked about particles and mass. Everything that's made out of particles has some gravity, remember? But we said that things are so small we can't feel their gravity. Gravity is not that strong a force. So we only notice gravity when it's something huge, like a planet. So the inner planets are smaller than the outer planets, so they have less gravity. They still have gravity, and obviously strong enough to hold us to Earth, but not enough gravity to pull in comets or asteroids or other things that start to orbit around them, becoming their satellites. Jupiter is our biggest planet. It's got 50 moons. That means it's got so much gravity that it's caught 50 moons in its gravitational pull. Saturn's got 53, second biggest planet in our solar system. I'm not sure why it would have more moons, but maybe it's just where it was located. Uranus and Neptune also have quite a few moons. Pluto is interesting because Pluto is actually a dwarf planet, really small, but is located next to an asteroid belt where there's more rocks floating around that could get stuck in its gravity. So those 2 reasons, where they're located and their size, are why the inner planets have less moons.
So why do some planets have more moons than others? Mostly because of their size. The larger planets have more moons. I'm Eric Loberg with the Museum of the Rockies Taylor Planetarium.
Cool. So why do the inner planets have few or no moons? Because of their size, right? They're smaller, so they have less gravity than the outer planets, so less rocks or other objects get trapped in their orbit. So hopefully you can write it down. The inner planets have fewer or no moons because, why again? Oh yeah, because they are smaller, so they have less gravity to pull rocks and other objects in. You could also add they are also located close to the sun, which burned up lots of rocks and meteors. Remember, because they're so close, that the sun's got so much energy, it's giving out so much heat that even rocks and other things can melt and burn up when it got close. So their size and where they're located really impact the amount of moons a planet has. So let's review real quick before we take our exit ticket. The 4 planets closest to the sun are called the inner planets. All the inner planets share similar characteristics. Two of the most similar characteristics are size and composition. That means what they're made out of. The inner planets are relatively small, so they're all small compared to the other planets, and they're all made of rocks and metals. So Earth's made of rocks and metals, Mars is, Mercury is, and Venus. They're all made of rocks and metals. Because they are smaller, they have less gravity, meaning they don't have many moons orbiting around them. So they're all terrestrial or made out of dirt, rocks, and metals. They're all small, like Earth is huge, but compared to the other planets, they're all small. And they all have few moons because they don't have as much gravity because of their size. It's time to show that your brain was focused on the right thing. Let's take our exit ticket. In 3 to 4 sentences, explain the characteristics that are unique to the inner planets of our solar system. So you're going to write down the 3 or 4 things that make the inner planets different or unique than all the other planets in our solar system. You can do that here, or if you just want to get a piece of paper and write it down, that'd be fine too. Time for our quiz. Name the planet that is closest to the sun. So which of the planets, Venus, Earth, Mercury, or Mars, is closest to the sun? Again, you can do it here or on a piece of paper. Just write down the letter for question number 1 on our quiz. Name the planet with the hottest temperature because of its thick atmosphere. So which of the inner planets has the hottest temperature because of its thick atmosphere? Mercury, Venus, Earth, or Mars? If you need to go back and watch that video again or go back to where I was talking about it, that's fine. This planet is called the red planet and has the largest mountain in the solar system. So it's got minerals on its surface that give it a red color, and it's got this huge mountain, Olympus Mons, on it. Is it Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars? Write down the letter that you choose. This is the planet this planet is the only planet that has liquid water. This one should be an easy one. I love it so much I spelled it wrong. Whoops. Mercury, Venus, Earth, or Mars? Write down your letter. Name the planets that have no moons. So there's 2 of them that didn't have moons. Which ones were they? Think about location and maybe size. So which ones, or temperature even, which ones didn't have any moons? There's 2 answers you can pick. When you're finished, you'll hit submit. You can send me a picture if you did it on your paper. After that, we are done. You're welcome to go over the lesson again. Just tap right here. You can watch the video as many times as you want. Remember, you can always call me or text me if you have any questions, and I hope that I can hear from you soon. Be on the lookout for information about our graduation ceremony. You should be getting more information on Facebook and in the mail soon. I miss you guys. I hope you're all well. Bye.